So the other day, I'm scrolling through Reddit, as one does, and I'm coming across a bunch of memes about how Redditors broke the stock market and how GameStop's stock price is suddenly way up. Eventually, I gave in to my curiosity about whatever the hell was going on and decided to do a bit of research on exactly what happened. And what I found was such a great story about how a group of regular people stuck it to Wall Street that I just had to make a video on it. So sit back, relax, and let me tell you the story of a group of Redditors who cost Wall Street investors billions of dollars. So this whole thing started in a subreddit called wallstreetbets, which basically consists of a bunch of different people giving each other advice on investments in the stock market. Some of these people are full-time investors, some of them are part-time, and others have never even invested before. This group of people decided to use the communal aspect of Reddit and rally together to collectively invest a bunch of money into GameStop with two main goals in mind. One, to make a bunch of money, and two, to make all those wealthy 1% douchebags lose a whole bunch of money. And boy, did they succeed. Seemingly overnight, GameStop's stock price skyrocketed from about $10 to $20 per share to nearly $400 per share. This happened because a bunch of people from Wall Street Bets invested anywhere from a few $100s to tens of thousands of dollars buying up GameStop stock. And when a bunch of stock suddenly gets purchased, that forces the stock price to go way up. And those people who invested tens of thousands of dollars suddenly became millionaires when the stock price went up like 2,000%, making those tens of thousands of dollars they initially invested now worth tens of millions of dollars. And it's not only GameStop that this is happening to. Companies like AMC, BlackBerry, and Nokia have been subjected to shorting by investors for a very long time. So people from the subreddit also started investing in these companies, making their shares also go way up. However, nowhere near as high as GameStop, which is why GameStop is the main company that everybody is now talking about. Now, why is this so bad for big investors and hedge funds? Well, investors really like to do this thing with some companies such as GameStop called shorting, which is when investors borrow a bunch of shares from a company and sell them off to a third party in the hopes that the company will soon fail and the price of their shares will go way down. So when the investors have to pay for the shares that they sold off, the share price will be much lower than what they initially sold the shares off for, making them a profit. Investors do this sort of thing all the time. There's nothing illegal about it in the slightest. However, in my opinion, it seems kind of unethical to hope that a company will fail just so that you can make a quick buck off their failure. Anyway, because a bunch of investors shorted GameStop, when GameStop's stock price suddenly went way up, those investors lost billions of dollars due to the fact that they are now forced to buy back the shares that they sold off for only a fraction of what they are actually worth now. And these investors are pissed. These investors, these hedge funds, these elite 1% who have been using the stock market as their own personal casino for years without caring about the state of companies as long as they make their money, are now complaining that normal people aren't allowed to do this and that the stock market now has to be regulated only because they lost some money. Like maybe some of those investors did lose really big and they might not be able to bounce back. However, that is the risk you take when you invest in the stock market. Everybody knows that. But most of the people who lost big time are multi-million and billionaires who will easily be able to recoup these losses. And yet they have done nothing but complain to the media about the fact that normal people have done something that they've been doing for years. The hypocrisy is just hilarious. And when I say normal people, I mean normal people. One of the more notable people from the subreddit goes by the username Deep Value, but his real name is Keith Gill. He predicted all the way back in 2019 that GameStop stock price would see a very sudden and rapid growth, so he decided to invest a little over $50,000 and then started encouraging other people on the subreddit to do the same. His shares are now valued at over $50 million. And this dude is a 34-year-old father from Massachusetts who makes YouTube videos about investing, and due to his new financial gain, he can now afford to buy a house. I also read about a woman on the subreddit who invested money into GameStop and she can now afford to pay for her sister's leukemia treatment. Now the people on the subreddit who are making millions of dollars from their shares could easily sell their stocks, get the money, and be done with this whole thing. However, if they did that, then the stock price would go down pretty well as quickly as it went up, allowing those investors I mentioned earlier to recoup some of their losses. So instead of selling, the entire subreddit is encouraging one another to hold the line and put off selling their shares in order to make sure that those investors lose a bunch of money. And honestly, I think that impresses me more than the group figuring out this whole thing, because I don't know if I would have the willpower to put off selling my millions of dollars worth of stock, even if the cause was a really worthy one. Anyway, because so many people from the subreddit are holding on to their shares, investors are doing everything they can to force those people to sell so that they can minimize their financial losses. And if you didn't think that the rich had any influence over the media and businesses before, then please allow me to change your mind. Discord, which is an online chat room website, decided to ban the Wall Street Bets group for like hate speech or some other bullshit reason, but it's so obvious that the company was just influenced to do so by rich investors. But what's even worse than that is Robinhood, which is a trading app that a lot of people use for stock trading, is now heavily restricting the trading for companies like GameStop, AMC, BlackBerry, and all those other companies I mentioned. Because Robinhood is deciding to favor the rich investors who've shorted those companies and other companies like them for years and are now losing millions of dollars because of it. These same people are demanding that the app stop allowing people to buy stock for those companies so that they won't lose any more money. Robinhood is a person known for stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, but this app with the same name is deciding to support the rich and screw over the poor. So honestly, I would recommend a name change. May I suggest We're Assholes? I think it suits the company very well. So obviously people are questioning why the app is limiting the trading and buying of these company stocks, and the answer is quite simple. It's because a bunch of normal people are making money off of these companies instead of the billionaires, and we just can't have that. Like, senators in the United States were given information regarding the coronavirus last year, so they sold off millions of dollars of their stocks before the stock market crashed because of the pandemic. And yet, when a bunch of normal people are using the stock market to their advantage, suddenly it's just a huge issue. I'm just so goddamn sick of the hypocrisy and the fact that the economy is set up to keep the wealthy wealthy and the poor poor. The world doesn't need billionaires, especially when all those billionaires do is hoard their wealth, and yet governments still refuse to tax them. I apologize, I'm getting a bit off topic there because that is a whole other conversation to have. So I've gone on the Wall Street Bets subreddit, and honestly, I love what I see. A ton of posts are pictures of people donating their earnings to charity instead of just keeping it all for themselves like the butthurt 1% would do. And I love to see it. Like, am I jealous of a bunch of average people who invested some of their money into the stock market and became millionaires seemingly overnight? Yes, of course I am. I'm only human. But am I also extremely happy to be jealous of a bunch of average Joes instead of just some millionaire? Definitely. My only complaint about this whole thing is that no one told me it was happening. Like, I definitely would have contributed a few $1,000s to buy stocks if I knew this whole thing was going down. Like, Wall Street Bets, have your people call my people. We'll work something out. Anyway, that's pretty well the whole story behind all of this so far, but I'm sure that there'll be more news about it at some point. So if there's anything more really noteworthy that happens in the next little while, then maybe I'll make another video about it if you guys really like this one. And if you did enjoy this video, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. It sincerely means a lot. And I also really hope to see you guys in the next video.